On this week's episode of SchuZ Views, you'll get to hear from former University of Arizona assistant coach Book Richardson on many different topics, along with the Portland Trailblazers, March Madness, and my grades on all 30 NBA teams' front office 2019 trade deadline and buyout markets, and of course, the SchuZ Zone. Good morning, everyone. I hope that everyone is having a blessed start to the Monday, and if not, stay tuned because I think that your day is about to get a lot better. Welcome to the fourth episode of SchuZ Views. I'm here in Gilbert, Arizona, ready to bring you a whole new outlook of the NBA. I'm your host, Zach Schumaker, and later on the show, I'll be joined by a very special guest that you're going to want to stay to listen to. Without further ado, I think it's time to get right into the first topic of the day. The first topic of today, we're going to discuss the NBA trade deadline, and I'm going to rank all 30 NBA front offices and how they handled this year's 2019 NBA trade deadline, along with the buyout market. You might be wondering why I waited so long to discuss this topic. Well, let me say this. The buyout market does run way longer than the trade deadline. I believe that every player that will be on the playoffs is now on the roster besides maybe someone like Greg Monroe or Zach Randolph, and we'll see how that goes. We're going to start with the Eastern Conference, starting off with Toronto Raptors. They made an addition of adding Marc Gasol, Jeremy Lin, and Jody Meeks, while losing C.J. Miles, DeLone Wright, Malachi Richardson, Greg Monroe, and Jonas Valanciunas. I give Masai Ujiri and the rest of that front office a B+. They made the moves necessary to get a lot better and become a legit contender in this NBA, not just the Eastern Conference, the entire NBA championship. I truly do believe that. I don't give them an A or something because I believe seeing how DeLone Wright especially and Jonas Valanciunas has panned out, I don't like it. Because those two guys, I believe, are very skilled, and Memphis got a very good player in that, as I'll hit up in a little bit. Next team will be the Boston Celtics. I just gave them a D. They didn't gain anyone. They only lost Jabari Bird. But that should just be a no grade or C or something. No, I'm going to give that a D. Because you see teams like Philadelphia, Toronto, and the Milwaukee Bucks, and they got pieces that really significantly bolstered their entire roster. Boston did not do that. I believe that they have so many pieces and they need to get more camaraderie and become a lot better team, and they did not. They failed to do that this past offseason. We'll see if they're preparing for a big Anthony Davis deal, but they did not succeed at the trade deadline in my view, which is why they are struggling. Third up is the Philadelphia 76ers, and I've talked a couple times now. I love Elton Brand. He is an amazing general manager, and I give him an A+. Elton Brand gained Tobias Harris, Boban Marjanovic, Mike Scott, James Ennis III, and Jonathan Simmons while losing Mike Muscala, Landry Shamet, Wilson Chandler, and Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz is very skilled. Obviously, we know that former number one overall pick. They got rid of that, though. Wilson Chandler has been dealing with injuries all year. Landry Shamet is a very skilled, young, talented player. Mike Muscala got shipped around the next day, as we heard about that Zubac deal where the Lakers did laugh, or the Clippers did indeed laugh at that when they got the trade proposal. But that being said, what Philadelphia has done, like I said before, Elton Brand was able to gain 2 star players throughout the course of the season without signing them via trade. That is very hard to do and very skilled, and they bolstered that bench that they had a lot of issues with. By getting Tobias Harris, a backup big man in Boban Marjanovic, Mike Scott, a very good bench player, James Ennis, and Jonathan Simmons. I love the move that they made. That's why I truly do believe with the injuries occurring in Milwaukee by now losing Dante DiVincenzo and Pau Gasol and Malcolm Brogdon and company, that Philadelphia might just come out of the East. They might just do it. I believe that. Next up is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I give them an A+ as well. You might be wondering, they didn't get any star players. No, but there, Kobe Altman, I've talked to him before. He's an amazing general manager. He's very skilled and has a very bright future. He's got loaded on picks for the rest of his rebuild. Sexton is proving to be an elite player right now. I believe in their 10 out of 11, he's got 20-plus points after today's game against the Clippers, which was a great battle between him and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Point is, they got Marquise Chris, which is a young flyer. Maybe he could become something. He has some price or good spotlights and all. We'll see if he continues being with this team. Brandon Knight rebounding from his injuries he's occurred with, and Nick Stauskas they signed. I do like Nick Stauskas. He was shipped around a lot during that trade deadline by only losing Rodney Hood and Alec Burks. 2 very good players that are good players on playoff team, but did not need them, and they got first and second round picks for those guys. Very well done by the Cleveland Cavaliers front office staff. Next up is the Milwaukee Bucks, who gives them an A-. They got Nikola Mirotic, Pau Gasol, and Tim Frazier, while losing Thon Maker, Christian Wood, and Jason Smith. Thonmaker, I still believe, has talent. We'll see how this continues to pan out in Detroit. Christian Wood has been killing it out there in New Orleans right now, putting up 18 points a game, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 2 steals a game. In the last 3 games, he's been waived and claimed by New Orleans. Mirotic was a big addition. Pau Gasol's not playing much. Tim Frazier has not been impressive. But they did not succeed in getting another player that could be a starting player for them. Mirotic is very good. I still give him a great grade, but it wasn't amazing. I do think that they may have given up a couple too many picks by giving up 4 second-round picks, but overall, it was very well done by John Horst in the front office in Milwaukee. Next up, Indiana Pacers, I give them an A. Could very well be an A+. They added Wesley Matthews, and they just waived Ike Anabogu. Anabogu could be a good player, still young, we'll see. But they basically just got 1-for-1. Wesley Matthews is not no Victor Oladipo, but he's been sustaining that job very well and kept them in the playoff race for 3, 4, 5 seed for them in the East, the Indiana Pacers. Next up is the Washington Wizards. They got a grade of a B. Washington Wizards, the nation's capital in the beginning of the year was in fire and disarray. John Wall was signed to a supermax that has not even kicked in yet. A supermax, folks. He'll be getting 35 plus million, 45, 50 million bucks for the next 4 or 5 years. Hasn't even kicked in yet next year, starts he's not playing next year. He's had multiple injuries and he went re-injured, I believe, towards ACL, along with his injuries right now occurring. He's out for a very long time, and he was already slowing down a look this year. I don't know what they're going to do, but point is, they need to get rid of money. There was no money. This was their team for the next 4 or 5 years, which is already declined, not looking good. They had to get rid of Otto Porter, which I love. The greatest for Chicago. I'll get into that in a couple minutes. Also got rid of Markieff Morris for a trade that really did not make much sense, besides the fact getting rid of a veteran. Whatever, I love Oklahoma adding him. But they got Bobby Portis, Jabari Parker, and Wesley Johnson, which has not played much. But Bobby Portis, I'm a big fan of. A very big fan of Bobby Portis, in fact. I think he's a very skilled player, will be in this league for a long time. And Jabari Parker, as we know, is a flyer. We don't know necessarily what he will become, but he shows a lot of signs. Still rebounding from all those ACL injuries, but I believe if he gets in shape, he continues to stay injury-free, he will be a very good player in this league. I don't know if it's going to be with Washington, but I do like the idea that Washington was able to get rid of some cap space, so I'll give them a B. Miami, I don't know what was going on. I'm a big fan of what Miami does up there with Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, the rest of that crew up there. But Ryan Anderson? Really? That was your only move. And instead you lost Wayne Ellington, Tyler Johnson. I don't agree with it. Cap, you got rid of some money to gain some money. I don't get it. They're putting a playoff run. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that whatsoever. That's why I gave them a D-. Detroit. This is what I'm talking about. They added Thonmaker, Steve Mikhailuk. As we all know, I love my boy Svi. And Wayne Ellington. But they lost Stanley Johnson, Reggie Bullock, and Henry Ellenson. Ellenson was solid for Knicks. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Reggie Bullock is a very good player. I believe LA, that's the one bright spot they had. But they got Svi, which is a great young player. But Wayne Ellington basically was Wayne Ellington for Reggie Bullock. I believe Reggie Bullock is a better player. But that's not what they said. I give him a C in that grade. Thonmaker, I believe, would turn out to be a better player if he stays there, but we'll have to see how that pans out. Hornets, I give him a C. I love Mitch Kupchak. He's a very special person that's influenced me a lot already so far in my young career, but no added Chauvin Mack. They didn't really lose anyone. They got a lot of young players. They're in disarray a little bit in terms of cap space from the previous management crew. Charlotte will become a better player. We'll see what they do with Kemba. Chauvin Mack was a good addition. He was playing good in Memphis, just hasn't carved out a role behind Kemba, Devontae Graham, Tony Parker. It is what it is. I thought they might have lost Frank Kaminsky, but he's come along strong recently as a playoff push. The Nets would just give them a B. Sean Marks didn't really do anything besides sign and waive Greg Monroe, or trade for Greg Monroe and waive him, but they did get a second-round pick. So that's what Sean Marks likes doing, grabbing picks, as we all know. New York Knicks, I give them a B-. They had Dennis Smith Jr., DeAndre Jordan, John Jenkins, and Henry Ellenson. Jenkins and Ellenson were signed by the buyout market. They lost Trey Burke, Enes Kanter, Courtney Lee, Tim Hardaway Jr., and, of course, Kristaps Porzingis. B-. You might be wondering why. I was very much against trading Kristaps Porzingis, still am. I think he is potential to be a top 5 player, if not the best player. Not saying he will. He's just one of those players that has the potential to become that. Point is, I love Dennis Smith Jr. a lot. I think he's a very, very, very good young piece. Only problem is that they drafted Frank Ntilikina in front of him a couple years ago, and everyone knew Dennis Smith was the right pick. Frank Ntilikina, by the way, is now being shipped. Potentially, they're going to be trading him this next offseason. That's what he is. They're going to have Moutier, Ntilikina, and Dennis Smith Jr. in that backcourt. Don't necessarily understand that. Get it? Moutier's been playing an incredible Incredible play so far this year. I like him. DeAndre Jordan didn't make much sense for me. He didn't. DeAndre's a very, very good player. I don't care if people want to say his age, blah, blah, blah. He's an elite rebounder. He will be in this league for a long time. Management knows that. But why in New York? They should have bought him out or something, I believe. John Jenkins, he'll probably just be staying for the rest of the season, not much longer. We'll see what Henry Ellenson does. They buy Ennis Canty, a very good player, which I'll talk about later about Portland. Trey Burke, Porzingis is a star player, but we'll see. They better be able to get two superstar players this summer. That's all I'm going to say there. If they don't, I'm talking KD, Kyrie kind of stuff. And I'm talking Kawhi too, those kind of guys. I'm not just talking Jimmy Butlers and Kemba. I love those guys. They're very, very skilled player, but they ain't those players. Let's all be honest there. Atlanta Hawks, I give them a C. Only had Jalen Adams, while they lost Tyler Dorsey's been balling up out there in Memphis right now. Daniel Hamilton, they waived, and Jeremy Lin, which is a good player they bought out to go to Toronto. I love it. Jeremy Lin, glad he got the opportunity. But Atlanta, the front office there, Travis and all of them have been great. I love Lloyd Pierce. Y'all know that. They have a ton of picks this upcoming year. Them in Cleveland, watch out. They're about this team that already looks special is going to become really special. But Jalen Adams is it. They didn't really make much moves. I thought they would have made moves like trading Lin, trading them, and getting asset, but oh well. Kent Bazemore was a highly pursued player, and I would have been if I was a contender, but so be it. Orlando Magic gave them a C. Here's the thing why. I'm not against it. They got a good front office crew in there. John Hammond and them. Steve Clifford's done an amazing job so far as a coach out there. Jonathan Simmons was a good bench player for them, been great in Philly. It's kind of just a blah trade. But let me tell you something. Markelle Fultz, I believe, has talent. I don't know to level. I don't know if he's going to be the number one pick still, but he has talent. Point is, we're not seeing him this year, and this is a playoff run of this possible era with Nikola Vucevic, Evan Fournier, T. Ross, etc., etc. So we didn't really get to see him try making the playoffs this year. That is why. I like the Michael Carter Williams addition. I don't know if they should resign for the rest of the season. We'll see. They're making a late playoff push right now. Last team in the Eastern Conference, we're going with Chicago Bulls. I give them an A-. I've talked about it before. I love Jim Boylan. I love this front Paxson, Gar Paxman, and all of them. Foreman and Paxman crew has been great so far. I think they are way more bashed than they should be. They added Timothy Luau. They just signed Walt Lemon for the rest of the season, Walt Lemon Jr. They traded off Bobby Portis and Jabari Park, which I've talked about them already. But they added Otto Porter Jr., which was the perfect move. This is a front office that realizes its strengths and weaknesses. There's teams that, I can say a lot of teams, Phoenix is one of them, that they try panning out to get the top of the top of the top. The top of the crew. The best player in each free agency. It doesn't always work out. You got to realize, those players want to win now. They want the money. They want the markets. Chicago is a big market, don't get me wrong, but they're not going to attract someone. That being said, they know the next 1 or 2 years they will not get someone. So why not add someone like Otto Porter, a young piece that has potential, a former top 5 pick, and he was playing spectacularly for them before the injuries have been starting shutting them down. I love this move out there in Chicago. Let's get into it. The Western Conference starting off with the Golden State Warriors. They haven't lost anyone. They've added Andrew Bogut. Solid move. Another big man. Not going to say much. They're contenders. They don't need to make moves. But I do give them a B. I mean, they didn't do anything great, nothing bad, but it's just solid. They didn't need to make anything. Houston Rockets, were busy, but I give them a C. Wasn't really fond of it. Iman Shumpert's a good player. I know they want Alec Burks. I still think Iman's better than Alec Burks. I think Sacramento learned that. Daniel House, I don't know why they didn't re-sign him earlier in the year, because he can ball for them. They've now got Chris Chiozu and Trayvon Duval two-way, and Chiozu's on the roster. It's not really big moves. They've lost James Ennis, which I thought was very key to that team. I like his defense. Marquise Chris, which was a young player that I don't think they utilized as well as we saw. I mean, what Kenneth Faried kind of has become is what they wanted Marquise Chris to become. Brandon Knight, he was a backup point guard. I don't know why they didn't get rid of it. Why they got rid of him. Carmelo, we know how that situation is. I don't know what's going on there. So these games, C wasn't much moves. They needed to make a big move. I was expecting them at the beginning of the year to add someone like Jimmy Butler. They clearly failed to do that. That's why I still don't believe they're beating the Warriors. Injuries, they're not as deep, not as great as the Golden State Warriors. Next up, Portland Trailblazers. I do have a segment on the Portland Trailblazers I will be discussing right after this. But for now, let me say this. At the time period, I give them an A. For the first time, Neil O'Shea finally got the pieces of note right for the playoffs and got depth by adding guys like Rodney Hood and Enes Kanter, only losing Wade Baldwin two-way, Nick Stauskas, and Caleb Swanigan. A very, very, very impressive move. I thought this team had a chance to make the potential run at the Western Conference Championship. We know what the injuries have now occurred to become, and I'm going to discuss that later, but at the time, it's an A. They got the depth, and this team was looking very scary. Oklahoma City Thunder, I give them a B. Not really much to get the point where they've added star players to help this team or true contender people. Markey came off a very bad neck injury. He hasn't quite fit in yet. We'll see if he continues to get that. But they also re-signed Deontay Burton to a multi-year deal. They've now claimed Juwan Evans as a two-way contract. They lost Timothy Luau and Wade Alex Abrines, which I don't understand because Abrines didn't find a roster spot someone else. Usually when someone gets waived, they quickly go under another team. But I do love the Marquise Morris move, and that's I mean, I think they should have kept Abrines though, but that's my thing. Utah Jazz is getting them a D. They didn't make a single move. In the beginning of the year, I thought this team was going to the conference championship. Wasn't beating Golden State. I knew that Golden State was winning this year. Point is, I thought they're getting that, and I thought they still could do that if they made the right move. Ricky Rubio is a great player, not for the level that Utah Jazz could become. I think this. Let me just say this real quick. I believe that a team that had Dante Exum, Donovan Mitchell, and Gobert, if Exum had stayed healthy, that team could become a very, very, very elite big three that could be a contender. Exum has potential at the roof, but I feel so bad for the kid because he just deals with injury after injury. He's now out for season, had another surgery. Point is, Exum was going to become the starter. They paid him this summer. Rubio's still there. They were in trade talks for Mike Conley, and I think Mike Conley couldn't fit better there. A smaller market just like Memphis. He's a great grind, winning caliber player to pair up next to Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Favors, Joe Ingles, etc., etc. That's where I think they should have done. They didn't make that move. They were so close, and they should have just done it. Memphis was in a trading mood, and they wanted picks. They should have done it. I truly believe that they messed up there. That's why I give them a D. Spurs didn't make a single move either. Like usual, I give them a C. Greg Popovich loves his players. He keeps them, and they get in the playoffs. It's the way it rolls every year. Can't really say much. Honestly, it's just a no ranking. Nothing against them, nothing for them. It was just a solid day. New Orleans Pelicans C+. Give them a C+. The Christian Wood addition looks great. Not really sure about this Bertans, the guy, Davis Bertans' younger brother. They lost Nikola Mirotic, Wesley Johnson, Tim Frazier. Mirotic was a great player, but they got 4 first-round picks, so I applaud them there. Only thing is that they didn't get the Anthony Davis done. Which, being patient, honestly, is key. That saved the NBA, and it cost Dub Dumps a job, though, in all reality. It was a lose-lose for him, and I hate this scenario. That's why I'm saying this is a C+ rating for them. Minnesota Timberwolves didn't make much besides adding Cameron Reynolds. He's been a solid player. I don't know if he's going to stay much longer. Give them a C for that. Nuggets didn't make a single move. Also give them a C. Besides, they added Isaiah Thomas in terms of getting back from injury, but he hasn't really played much. And I like Monte Morris because Monte Morris became what they want Isaiah Thomas to become, anyways. LA Clippers B+. Well done, Jerry West, Doc Rivers, and the rest of that crew. Added Landry Shamet, which is a very skilled player, and now they got an elite young duo, Shai Alexander and Landry Shamet. Watch out, folks. Wilson Chandler is starting to get healthy, and he played well the last couple games. And they did this nice little swap, the Zubac for Muscala deal, which no one really saw or understood, but it worked out great. They waived Beasley, obviously. They also traded Tobias Boba and Mike Scott, but look, Doc Rivers is why I think he might be the coach of the year now. He got this team into the playoffs with no All-Star, no one even yet. Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell have the best young bench duo in the entire NBA. It's special what they got going on there. Watch those guys. That bench mob is special. It's Lob City to Bench City now. Dallas Mavericks, I give them an A+. They added Kristaps Porzingis, I just said, with Dennis Smith, a couple other players, salary balancers, so on. Tim Hardaway Jr., I like him. He's a solid player. Courtney Lee and Trey Burke are going to be gone after this year. Burke was a good fill-in for now, while J.J. Barea towards Achilles. They lost DeAndre Jordan. Yeah. And they lost Dennis Smith Jr. and Wesley Matthews. Dennis Smith wasn't going to play with Luka anyways. Wesley Matthews they bought out because they weren't making the playoffs. Plain and simple. Plus, Tim Hardaway, I'm taking over Wesley Matthews anyways. Great day. Mark Cuban, Donnie Nelson, Rick Carlisle. Great day. Way to work. That was impressive. Lakers, D-. Could have given them an F. If it wasn't for that Bullock move. I know LeBron and the Lakers love Svi. He was going to be a great player for them. He could shoot 3. But they had to make a move. They wanted to make LeBron happy, as Kamar Price said last episode. They had to get someone like Reggie Bullock, which is a better player than Svi right now. But he's a free agent. Doesn't really matter now. Mike Muscala for Zubac was just ridiculous. I don't understand it. Muscala's walking away. Zubac at least was restricted. Starting now for a playoff team in the Clippers. He's having a heck of a time. And they had just different pieces. They added Jones now today, yeah. They lost Svi, Michael Beasley, and Zubac. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. They didn't get the Anthony Davis deal done. Really just didn't work out great. Sacramento, I'll give them an A+. They added Harrison Barnes to that team, which made it's a very special team. Fox, Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, Marvin Bagley III, Willie Cauley-Stein, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Harry Giles is a very elite young core. they will be contenders in the near future. Mark my words. Alec Burks was a great addition. Like I said before, I'd rather have Iman than him, but it was still a good move. Corey Brewer was a great signing. Caleb Swanigan was just a nice little fly move for them, and LeBC refresh the teams. They lost Iman Shumpert, Zach Randolph, Skylar BCR. Yes, Sacramento Kings get an A plus from me. Another team that gets an A plus, the Memphis Grizzlies, as I said, I'm going to talk about later. They've added Avery Bradley, Tyler Dorsey, Jonas Valanciunas, CJ Miles, Delon Wright, Bruno Caboclo. They've lost Shelvin Mack, JaMychal Green, Garrett Temple, and Marcus Saul. They had to get rid of Marcus Saul. The time was ending. Marcus Saul's time is ending as well, but that team is done. Temple was a good veteran, but they got value for him. JaMychal Green, same thing. Shelvin Mack, same thing. They waived Shelvin Mack, but adding Avery Bradley has really found an elite pairing with Mike Conley for the rest of this year. I think they might keep him. I do like Avery Bradley. I think that now that he's getting healthy, his game's starting to come back to him. Tyler Dorsey's been putting on a show recently. Not sure how long he'll stay. CJ Miles put up a big-time game, that 33-point game. I believe he had 8 threes, and he's out for season. Delon Wright is a very good special young player, and Bruno Caboclo, they found another piece there. He's special. He's young, 23, got a perfect NBA body. But man, I want to touch up on is Jonas Valanciunas. He is the new Marcus Gasol for that city. I love the way he plays. He is very skilled, very talented, and I love Jonas Valanciunas. He's been playing spectacular since he's got there. Last team in the West, and last team of this rankings is the Phoenix Suns. I'm gonna give them a B minus. They got Tyler Johnson, Raymond Spalding, and Jimmer Fredette. They lost Ryan Anderson. They got rid of Ryan Anderson's contract for a guy that they need a point guard, a solid fill-in for the rest of the year, trying out for next year. We'll see what happens. Spalding's been solid for that. It's been for money sales and for getting money for the team. Solid move there, I guess, in that terms. But overall, I love Tyler Johnson. The addition was great, and they got rid of the Ryan Anderson contract. It was a very good day for them, I'd say, in that front office. One of the few that they've had recently. Stay tuned to see what I have to say about the Portland Trailblazers, their championship odds after the Jusuf Nurkic injury, CJ McCollum's injury, what I think about those refs from that game, and the potential Damian Lillard Supermax contract this summer. Stay tuned to see what I have to say. Next topic here today we're going to talk about is the Portland Trailblazers. I'd like to give a shout out to Jack Mumford for suggesting the idea. I'm just going to get into this. I said this recently about the trade deadline and the buyout market grades that I really thought this team could go far. They got the depth for the first time, adding Cancer, adding Rodney Hood, so on and so on. They lost that injury for Jusuf Nurkic, hurt them a lot. McCollum's also down. It causes those two guys bench players to go to the starting lineup now. Layman's been solid, but it's nothing like that. Jusuf Nurkic will now be out for at least a year, maybe more, with a compound fracture in his left tibia and fibula. I'm going to say something right now. Before I get into that, I want to say McCollum is out for maybe until the beginning of the playoffs. We'll see, maybe past that. He's yet to play. He's still sitting out. But the depth is gone. Nurkic was key to that team. Before I get into that anymore, I didn't want to talk about this. Damian Lillard did say that he might be interested in the Supermax and staying, which I think he should, and he's more than deserving. The Supermax for him right now would look something like 4 years, $194 million. In average, that would be $48.5 million per year, folks. That's what these superstars get paid. I think he's deserving it. That being said, let me get into what I just said I'm going to get into. I was up staying up late that night, watching the Brooklyn Nets vs. Portland Trailblazers game. Double overtime. Thriller. Great game. One problem. I tweeted out a few times if any of you guys saw that. These refs were not calling nothing. The game was going back and forth. Nets weren't getting a single call. Nothing. Portland wasn't getting much either. Fans, coaches were yelling and complaining at the refs. I knew something was happening. I even said someone's going to get hurt. The refs fired up both Jared Allen and Ed Davis for the Brooklyn Nets. We had Jared Dudley running center. Jared Dudley's a solid player. You guys know I have respect for him, but he's not a center that can battle with a 7'2", 7'3" Bosnian beast and Jusuf Nurkic. He's boxing him out, going up for a rebound as Jusuf Nurkic keeps going over the back of him because the refs won't call anything. Well, I mean, what's there? You're not going to learn something if the refs don't stop it. They're grown men that's going to keep trying to win a game in a very highly competitive playoff atmosphere game. And as we saw, Jusuf Nurkic has one of the most gruesome injuries we've seen before. I have all players full respect for Jusuf Nurkic, and hopefully he returns. He is a very underrated young player, 24 years old. He can ball, and he is special. He's had a heck of a year, had a career night, 30-plus points, 20 rebounds, I believe. He's special, and he was perfect for that team, and Damian Lillard said that CJ McCollum big three. He's out for the season now, folks. He's out for the playoffs. Those refs cost a player his career, potentially, and a team the playoff and championship run. That's all I'm going to say about those Portland Trailblazers. I was very disgusted in those refs that game. It is a problem that needs to be fixed. Adam Silver's done an amazing job at cleaning up this game. Those refs let that slide that game. I wouldn't be going nowhere. Stay right where you are, because coming up next is what you all have been waiting for. The guest of the week, who is a very special guest, former University of Arizona assistant coach, Coach Book Richardson, is coming on to SchuZ Views to discuss many topics, varying from middle school to the NBA. Stay tuned to see what he has to say. I'm joined here now by Coach Book Richardson. How are you doing today, Coach?
Zach, I'm hanging in there. I'm really blessed, and I'm happy to be a part of your podcast.
Thank you, Coach. So let's hit up the first topic now. Made hoops and the transition from middle school to high school and the impact it has. What's your thoughts on that?
I think Made Hoops has been an extraordinary tool, especially for the younger, like that middle school
Mm-hmm.
competition. I think what happens across the country, we don't realize how skilled and the opportunity that a lot of these young men, actually babies, are having to be able to compete on a national level. I thought it was an ingenious concept by the people that made hoops, because like I said, it gets that talent, and it gets you ready to compete, get you ready for what's to come in high school.
For sure. I mean, just seeing like the fact about the amount of these kids that they get to see who the top players are at this young of an age, being able to compete through now, being able to compete with them through high school, college, pros. I mean, throughout their entire life, they know who they're going against to compete and try being better than that person. I mean, it's truly a great thing to see.
Yeah, and what it does, like you said, it definitely matriculates from this standpoint. You understand who your peer group is. I
Mm-hmm.
think as a coach, you start to say, like, competition. It's tough to get a guy who doesn't know how to compete. If he's
Mm-hmm.
just he's a really good player and he's just dominates where he's at. You want to see how does he play against other like like talented, like-minded players, and where does he stack up? When you're trying,
Mm-hmm.
I think that word is overly used, elite. I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's overly used, and I think when you find out the elite know who the elite are.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, you definitely see that as they come closer and closer. Like I usually like to say, I like watching high school basketball, but I don't necessarily like identifying who the best necessarily are usually until they at least play a few games in college, because that's when you truly can see who's separating themselves and getting ready for the pros. I mean, it just you can say who's elite for their class at that time period, but not until they get to college or the NBA is when I truly can say there are the elite, because there can't be hundreds of elite players. Elite's a very narrowed down group of the best. I mean.
Yeah.
So, leading into that, next thing is, what do you look for in players when you define what kind of player they are? If they are an elite player, if they are a good player, what they're good at, and how early can you identify that?
I've always liked to look at who they are, and what I mean by that, um, who they are on the court, who they are off the court, who
Hmm.
they are towards their teammates, who they are towards their coaches, because that all matters. And I think the most important thing, which we've thrown, I think we've, as a society, as a basketball society, we've kind of put to the wayside. Winning matters.
Hmm.
Winning plays matters. Skill matters. You can always take your skill with you. Sometimes you run out of athleticism. Or you
Hmm.
run into someone that has as much or more athleticism than what. Your skill is the thing that you can always work. Like, you can be 50 years old and be able to shoot the ball.
Hmm.
If you
For
were
sure.
if you were a guy who had a 40-inch vertical and you're now 50, I'm not sure if you can dunk anymore, but I think you could probably still shoot. I
For
think you can
sure.
still I think you can still figure out how you can get a shot, how you can defend, help defense. And another thing I look for is communication, being able to talk on the floor.
Hmm.
We live in a society where gaming, the gaming systems, they've taken a priority, and there's been so many things that happens in between the lines. You have to be the guy who can communicate. You have to be the guy who understands what it is, that winning mentality,
Mm-hmm.
on defense, on offense. Hey, if someone's not in the place that they're supposed to be, can you direct them?
For sure.
Can you take coaching? Can you take constructive criticism? Or are you going to crack when things, when things go haywire? So
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that I look for. And I know it sounds like a lot, Zach, but it's truly not. You can see that in a couple of plays. How is this guy? Hey, he was open. His guy didn't get him the ball. Does he embrace him and say, "Hey, man, come on, next play, I was open," or does he lose his mind and he makes it about him? I was open.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that doesn't change. And I've always said, as a kid goes through middle school and high school, just like good habits, you pick up bad habits,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it's tough to break either of them. If you
Mm-hmm.
got really good habits, it's tough to break them. If you got really bad habits, it's tough to break them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this thing, I mean, like you touching up on that verticality part and how players, if they can always keep their skill, the shooting and all that, I think one of the best examples is watching Vince Carter right now. I mean, the guy has been in the league, known as one of the most athletic players ever, but he's still in the league producing at a high level because of the fact that he's worked on his craft and excelled in many different areas. I
Yeah,
mean, and there's also other
and
things I've talked about before, like there's not many players you see that are guys like the Nick Collisons that just got his jersey retired, Udonis Haslams, those guys that don't necessarily make many mistakes, if any, but they're just always there doing the right thing, getting rebounds, guarding the man, playing the fundamental, being a leader, and those are championship material players.
they're professionals. They're
Mm-hmm.
ultimate professionals. Uh, a role is asked of them, and they embrace it. And it may not be
Mm-hmm.
the role that they've always had or even always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Damon Stoudemire is a great example. He's the head coach at Pacific University.
Mm-hmm.
Odds were against him, 5'10" at best. He was the NBA Rookie of the Year in the '90s, and now as you watch him, his speed as he gets older, yeah, it diminishes. But guess what, man? This guy played a very long career, and you start to say, like, how does a guy that's 5'10" at best, not the strongest guy, not the most athletic guy, how does he survive?
Mm-hmm.
He does he doesn't look like anyone else on the court ever.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean,
Like you
that's
said, Vince Carter, Nick Collins, like how do they survive? Well, they're the ultimate professionals. They
mm-hmm.
understand what's needed of them, and 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 as you mentioned, all of those guys, they won wherever they were. They won.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, just another thing. I mean, this past week, obviously, I don't know if you've seen, but the Chris Humphreys had something in the Player Tribune talking about when he first came in the league, he was thinking he wanted to be the next Dirk, he wanted to be an elite scorer, and quickly he realized his first couple games he wasn't going to be that, and it took almost to the point where he was about to be thrown out of the NBA, where he finally decided I'm going to take a role, and he ended up going from losing his career at possibly 3 or 4 years to finishing with a 13-year career just because of the fact he said, I'm going to rebound, I'm going to play defense, I'm going to do my role, and I'm going to be a competitor. I mean, there's not many players that can be that elite caliber, the go-to player. There's so many people that need to have different roles for a team to truly be successful.
And you hit the nail on the head exactly, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Chris Humphreys, I did read that, and it talks about I don't want to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And for so many years, you're the best fifth grader. You become the best eighth grader. You become the best senior in high school. You become the best freshman or sophomore in college. And then when you get to that elite status or that stage where it's purely business and it's about basketball,
Mm-hmm.
and that's truly it, and putting a team together, you start to say, like, wow, there's a lot of people like me. And by the way, there's no cap.
Mm-hmm.
See, in every stage, eighth graders usually they're going to be 14, 15 tops. I think maybe
Yeah.
maybe there's a unique situation here or there. In
Mm-hmm.
high school, it's the same thing. In college, it's the same thing. But you get to the NBA, and you can be 19 years old, 20 years old, playing against a 30-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
That's a heck of a discrepancy,
For
and
sure.
therefore you have to understand what it is what is my role.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to embrace this role? Does this role help my team win?
Mm-hmm. For sure. That's definitely what it comes down to. I mean, all right. So the next topic we can get into is what are some of your favorite players you've coached or known, and how come?
Zach, you're going to get me in trouble because the, I don't want to forget anyone,
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anyone that's forgotten, it's like, oh, you such and such is your favorite.
Yeah.
Um, I always like Kemba Walker is a guy that no one as an eighth grader, as a
Mm-hmm.
freshman in high school, thought he'd be an NBA All Star.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough and blessed to be able to coach him and watch him through high school and watch him through college, and watching him, being around him for a very long time. He's one of those guys that's extremely dear to me because it's always been more than basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Solomon Hill,
Mm-hmm.
Derek Williams, uh, Quinn Cook,
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant. Early stories about him. He and a kid that I had coached named Jesse Sapp went to Georgetown, and he brought Kevin down from Maryland to play. And I said, hey, I can't let him play because I got some other kids here, and it was very weird because I saw Kevin again in Vegas, and we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of laughed at me like, you cut me. I was like, no, I didn't cut you. I just wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity, for the kids that I had, for them to play because I owed them that.
Mm-hmm.
But
For
guys
sure.
like, Edgar Sosa, Kashif Pratt, Louis Guzman, Curtis Kelly, there's Terrell McKenzie. There's so many. So, and I'm trying my best to say like, okay, those are the guys that you coach. But now when you talk about the NBA, the guys that you've been around,
Mm-hmm.
and I would probably say, like I said, those three that I mentioned earlier, definitely Stanley Johnson, Larry Markkinen, Rondae Hollis Jefferson, like that, very near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
TJ McConnell was like a son to me slash nephew, and I
Yeah.
address all of those guys as nephew because that's been the relationship that I've had with them and that I continue to have. DeAndre Ayton, wasn't around him for a long time, but just Alonzo Trier,
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Briscoe, who, and there's been guys that's going to other schools like Quinn Cook, he went to Duke.
Yeah.
Isaiah Briscoe went to Kentucky, who are now playing in the NBA and still maintaining a relationship with those guys,
Mm-hmm.
has been key for me. So I know I'm long winded on this one. I'm really trying to be very, very candid, but I'm also trying to just make sure I can answer your question
Mm-hmm.
without forgetting anyone. And they're like, "Come on, Unc, how could you forget me?" And I'm like, I didn't mean to,
Yeah, for
But
sure.
Kelly Oubre is another guy I never
Mm-hmm.
coached. I recruited him. Ed Davis, I never, I actually coached him in USA basketball
Mm-hmm.
and coached against him in AAU, but just was like awesome to be around. So,
Yeah.
um, Lance Stevenson.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, obviously seeing a lot of these players that you've just listed and you've coached and all, they all have something that you can tell is translated to their game in the NBA. And they all have a leadership and first most is they're all humble players and they all are winning players. You look at them, especially, I'm a big Brooklyn Nets fan. Ed Davis, what he's provided for the Nets especially has been a guy that doesn't care about minutes. He cares about going in, getting his rebound, and that's what helped brought them to a whole nother level. He did the same thing when he was in Portland. Kemba especially, watching what he's done this past year especially, he's a player that he just is a leader. He's a true elite player. So many of these guys, like you mentioned, they're very talented, but first most they're humble and they're winning players.
yeah.
It's special. So the next thing we get into is what's some of your favorite times or moments of coaching?
The camaraderie, the the
Mm-hmm.
the, the building of relationships, hopefully trying to turn these young men into men, and having an opportunity to find out about who these young men are, who these young women are, who these people, who they are,
Mm-hmm.
finding out their background, finding out what makes them tick, finding out what are some of their biggest dreams, what are some of their biggest fears, but being
Mm-hmm.
able to channel that and letting them know that you truly care about them, and being able to identify with them in some way, shape, or form. That's the biggest thing that coaching has meant. The winning is awesome. The
Yeah.
winning is awesome, but it's not all about winning. Sometimes you can learn a little bit more in a loss about someone.
For sure, for sure. I guess one other question I just also thought about. So necessarily when you're looking at a player, for those that are high school players looking to get into college, what's something that, as a recruiter, and as a coaching staff you look for first and foremost out of a player?
I think you look at the program.
Mhm.
If you're fortunate enough to say, hey, I want to look at the high school program, the AAU program, the travel team program, do they win?
Mhm.
And if they win, how do how do you act?
Mhm.
You also look at parents. Who are their parents?
For sure.
When something goes wrong, is that parent losing their mind? Are they yelling at the ref? Are they yelling at the coach? Because again, that too is learned behavior.
Mhm.
So those are the things that you can control. You could always control how you act. You
Yeah.
can't control anything else. Hey, you may come out and you may miss 15 straight shots. What's your process like? So
Mhm.
when you're recruiting a guy, you as an assistant coach, you look at, can he play for the person that I work for? That's
Mhm.
number one. I think you have to understand the person that you work for. What does he like?
Mhm.
Because you can't just go like a kid and it's like, man, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Sure.
I also I allude to being able to have a what's your winning skill? How
Mhm.
how how do you contribute? Are you hey, coach, I may not make a lot of shots, but I'm going to rebound and defend.
Mhm.
Okay. Are you going to be the best rebounder and defender you can be? And we'll work on the rest. Yes, yes, I will. Hey, coach, man, I'm a great shot maker. I'm a great shot taker. I got a great IQ, but hey, defense isn't my strong point. No problem. I'm going to put you in the best situation.
Mhm.
But it has to be a skill that can translate on any level.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's something else, I mean, looking at that, I think has been taking not as much notice anymore. And in terms of the public's eyes, I mean, just the winning aspect. You look at AAU basketball, there's a lot of these teams out there now that all they want, they get Balls Live, they get Bleacher Report, they get a whole bunch of these media outlets to show them crossing someone up, shooting crazy threes, all these different things. But the true thing is, are they winning games? And I think that's something that people, fans, have really just lost the point of. It's more about showtime, who can do what, who can get on mixtapes, as opposed to what the score is. I mean, how often do you see people talking about they win this, they win this? It's more they drop this many points. It's a highlight reel, and that's something I think has been definitely lost in terms of basketball recently.
Unfortunately, and here's I'd say this because I think that's I'm misrepresenting how I feel.
Hmm.
Social media can be awesome.
For sure.
It can also be a detriment because you get caught up in terms of what someone thinks of you and how
Hmm.
you have to proceed. And with social media, it's not about the totality of anything, the wholeness. It's about that 30-second snippet and what you can do in that 30-second snippet and the likes, the views,
Hmm.
because we live in such a microwave era where it has to happen right now. So, oh man, hey, he crossed him up, but did he make the shot?
Yeah, for sure.
Was that his only play that he made? And it's like that's the only thing you guys emphasized.
Hmm.
Winning sometimes goes by the wayside because we want to be entertained.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I see it. Whether it's Bleacher Report, it's any mixtape. Those guys, they get there's a want. There's a supply, there's a demand, there's a need for it, so they provide it.
Hmm.
And like I said, the younger crowds, if I got a 7-year-old guy, 8-year-old kid, he doesn't want to see someone blocking out. That's not interesting to him. That's not fun.
Yeah.
That's basic and boring. But
Hmm.
understanding the building blocks of a successful program, that's going to help you win games, being able to block out and rebound. But they don't
Hmm.
show that on on any media coverage. No one shows that
Hmm. For
on
sure.
the top 10 plays every night, whether it's on any media outlet. They're not showing you that. They're showing you the top 10 plays or the not so top 10. And again, it's an entertainment value. It's kind of a shock value.
Hmm.
And it has nothing to do with a win. It has nothing to
Sure.
do with, hey, this guy had an all around game. By the way, the last three possessions of the game, he defended the ball as best as anyone could. No one talks about that because to the average fan that this is catered to, that's not important. I want to see a dunk, a three. I want to see it between the legs 2 or 3 times and a rainbow jump shot from Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So, the next topic we can get into then, Coach, is the NBA playoffs. So let's start off with who's your favorite team in the NBA, if they're if they're in the playoffs or not, and then what player are you looking forward to watching in the playoffs, or your top players to watch in the playoffs.
Um, Born and raised in New York City, so I have an affection and affinity towards the Brooklyn Nets
Mm-hmm.
and the Knicks, especially having um, you know, Bronny Hollis Jefferson, Ed Davis,
Oh yeah.
those guys on that team, and Alonzo Trier, Emmanuel Mudiay, Kadeem Allen, having those guys on the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I know that they're not playoff. One's going to be a playoff team. I'm continually to hope the Nets can pull
Oh
through.
yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
those are my two favorite teams. The Sixers, especially with T.J. McConnell. But
Mm-hmm.
when I start looking at talent in the NBA, it's you have a core of 5 to 10 guys that are just like super elite to me. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Giannis,
Mm-hmm.
James Harden, Steph Curry.
Or, yeah.
You know, um, and
Embiid.
I mean, Embiid, my goodness. Aaron Gordon. You talk about
Mm-hmm.
guys that are like freak shows.
Mm-hmm.
And then, for me, this is a very sentimental one. It's Andre Iguodala because you talk about
Mm-hmm.
a true professional. Steph
For
Curry,
sure.
awesome. Boogie Cousins, but you know what? A true professional that kind of makes that thing go.
Oh yeah.
But
He's the reason they won that first championship. Coming off the bench and then decided to start the last couple games.
and I just think about this: a guy who started all of his life or all of his NBA career to go to a
Mm-hmm.
team and now come off the bench to win, become the NBA, Finals MVP.
Mm-hmm.
How many people would have said, "Okay, I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna parlay that into going to another spot where I can get much more money, and you know what? I might lose." Because that's the one thing about that league. You play so many games. Again, we talk about garnering good and bad habits. You lose
Mm-hmm.
60 games in a year, you can start becoming numb to losing.
Mm-hmm. So, who do you think, in your opinion, will win the East now, and the Western Conference Championship? Who's going to come out of each side?
And man, I don't know how I forgot Kawhi Leonard.
Oh
I
yeah.
apologize, and even Kyle Lowry, like knowing
Mm-hmm.
Kyle for a while. I think Toronto,
Okay.
Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
or Milwaukee, just from the standpoint of how they play,
Yeah.
how they defend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I definitely think those, one or two. I really like the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope health plays into what they do.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I think out the West, it's going to be really interesting to have a healthy Houston Rockets team
For sure.
playing at a high level um, against the Warriors. I
Mm-hmm.
thought earlier everyone made it a foregone conclusion that they would win, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure about that. Again, there's you have a level of hunger. I've always said the the starving wolf. The starving wolf analogy. That's at the top of the key. I mean, that's at the top of the mountain. He's not hungrier than the wolf that's on the rise.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, who do you think is going to win the NBA Finals?
With all that being said, I think the Golden State Warriors will win it.
Yeah.
Way to
Yeah.
corner me.
Yeah, same. I mean, they got 5 All-Stars. You can't, when it comes down to it, the talent wins games and they know how to win. I mean, it's gonna be tough to beat them.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's
I
gonna be
actually
tough
have,
to beat them.
so I actually have one other question I was thinking about. So when you look at players that recently have been starting to come and decide to skip out on college, such as like Mitchell Robinson, Moutier, what was your take on seeing players maybe either work on training or just go overseas? It happened in both NFL and NBA.
You know what? The business of the business of professional sports right now
Mm-hmm.
takes you in so many different circles. And I understand either way. If a kid wanted to go overseas and play for a year,
Mm-hmm.
wanted to train for a year, a la Mitchell Robinson,
Mm-hmm.
and Emmanuel Mudiay.
Yeah,
I know Mudiay very well. Know his situation very well,
mm-hmm.
and he did what was best for him and his family. And I think everyone's situation is a little bit different. And
For
I
sure.
think we have to judge it as such, because what we do is, as a society, as a basketball society, and we start grouping these kids and say, this is what you're supposed to do. And everyone's situation isn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, as I saw it, I was like, I don't know if that makes sense. But as I'm a little bit older, I can see where it makes all the sense in the world,
Yeah.
because it still worked out.
Mm-hmm.
He was still a lottery pick. Nothing was lost. By the way, he had an opportunity to accelerate his earning potential for
Mm-hmm.
himself and his family a year earlier. And that, again, those are things that I think we overlook and say, well, hey, just wait 8 months. And we both know anything can happen in 8 months.
Oh yeah, for sure. Injuries happen nonstop.
Yeah, and I've heard people say, well, hey, if you're poor, another 8 months isn't going to hurt you. That until you've been in those shoes, until
Mm-hmm.
you've been hungry, until you've said, hey, you know what, the lights are out, until you said that, hey, the rent's due,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think you want to force yourself into a situation where you may have to make a decision that doesn't make sense long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the last thing that I want to touch up on is I always gotta get a little bit of gospel in this. How do you think, or what's the best way that God's shaped your journey and your path?
You know what? I'm really blessed because I talk to him every day, and
Mm-hmm.
making me deal with me and dealing with my situations has been really good for me, because usually as a coach, you can always help someone else, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
always coaching someone else, but who's coaching you?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens, I think you start to overlook everything else. You start to overlook the time that you're spending with other people's children and other people's kids to help them prosper. And you fail to realize sometimes that balance you don't have. And especially, God has put me in a situation to make me understand, you have to balance your life. You have to be more focused in terms of, not only helping, but understanding what help is, understanding what unconditional
Mm-hmm.
love is, understanding what undying faith is.
Yeah, for sure.
So for me, it's been one of those things, where my relationship is so freaking funny, man, because I pray, and I kind of, it's the conversation that you have, and it's like, God, can you believe this? Hey, I need your help today, man. Come on, man. Come on now. I need your help. It's me again. But I think that's what it's, that's what I equated it to. As much as I was on the phone recruiting and doing other things, imagine if I gave him a percentage of that time.
For sure.
Just
Mm-hmm.
imagine, instead of me talking to someone for 30 minutes, imagine me talking to him for 3.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine me thanking him, oh man, thank you for letting me wake up. Even though my legs are sore and this, thank you. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, having that dialogue, having that open dialogue, as I would say, with God, having a faith-based relationship where it's like, look, man, I need you, man. I need you.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's good that's happened in my life is because of you, and everything
Mm-hmm.
that's bad, is not because of you. It's because,
Mm-hmm.
again, a decision was made, or I've always said God is a gentleman, and people laugh at me. Why do you say that? Because He's always going to say, "Hey, I got no problem with you doing that. You got free will. Go right ahead."
Mm-hmm.
But I'm right here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's 100% true. I mean, just seeing the way that no matter what, his path, he has a path set up for everyone out there. I mean, he's got a path, like I said, and it's a great path. You just have to choose to go down it. And it might be trials, it might be different tribulation stuff that he puts in that path, but it's only gonna make you stronger.
I agree.
Hmm. Well, it's truly been an honor having you on here, Coach. You'll always be welcome back whenever you'd like, and best of luck with everything going on.
I appreciate you, Zach, and please have a great afternoon. And
Mhm.
if you need me, I'm always here.
All right, sounds good.
All
Appreciate
right.
it, Coach.
Yes, sir. Later.
Later. I have a feeling all y'all's brackets are probably busted by this point. Most likely they are, just as mine is. I have 0 people left. But that being said, there was 8 games playing. We have 4 teams left. Let's see what I have to say. Stay tuned. Don't be going nowhere. Stay right there to see what I have to say about these teams and what the Auburn, Virginia, Michigan State, and Texas Tech did to overcome the team that they defeated this past weekend. Stay tuned, folks. Don't go nowhere. We are down to the Final Four, folks. One last week of basketball, NCAA college basketball. It's been a show so far, and we got 4 teams, presumably all great defensive teams, being Auburn versus Virginia, and Michigan State versus Texas Tech. I am going to talk about the 8 teams that made the Elite Eight, as they were able to defeat the teams that they played in the Sweet 16. Starting off with Auburn, I do want to say prayers for Chuma Okeke as he tore his ACL, projected first-round pick in the NBA draft. According to Shams, he will have his surgery next week. That being said, Auburn stepped up and pulled off a massive upset by the backcourt members that presumably might just be the greatest backcourt in college basketball right now. Bryce Brown and Jared Harper. Brown put up 24 points, 8 for 12 shooting, 4 for 7 from 3, along with 2 rebounds, as his fellow man Jared Harper put up 26 points, 7 for 18 shooting, 1 for 6 from 3, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. As I said, they defeated Kentucky without maybe just the best player in Shuma. As for Kentucky, in the first game playing in the Sweet 16 game, Tyler Hero put on a show, 19 points. He did not do as well in the second game. PJ Washington continued to put on a show as he put up 16 points. And in the next game today against Auburn, he was able to put up 28 points on 10 for 18 shooting, 2 for 4 from 3, and 13 rebounds. He is showing how much that one extra year of college benefited him. Now, Keldon Johnson struggled that first game, putting up 3 for 12 shooting. This next game, he redeemed himself a little bit by putting up 14 points on 5 for 13. Still only 0 for 2 from 3. He did have 10 rebounds, which impressed me, along with 3 assists. Next up, I want to talk about Gonzaga. Yes, they were defeated by Texas Tech in the Elite Eight, but as for Gonzaga, Brandon Clark put on a show. This kid took himself from maybe an NBA player, maybe not, to representing Arizona, putting Arizona on his back, and showing that he's an NBA player. In his first game in the Sweet 16, Clark had 15 points and 12 rebounds. The next game, he was able to put up 18 points, 7 for 10 shooting, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists. Now, second game, especially Rui, really did show up, putting up 22 points, 8 for 19 shooting, and 6 rebounds. He was a great player that a lot of people believed, and I believe he slipped a little bit, but I think Rui will still be a good player. As for Texas Tech, I do want to say this. Jarrett Culver is the real deal, folks. He's grown. He should also want another year of development and help, just as John Morant and Brandon Clark, as I just said. But MPJ Washington. But Jared Culver put up 22 points, 4 and 4 in the Sweet 16 game, following it up by 19 points, 5 for 19 shooting, 2 for 8 from 3, 2 assists, and 5 rebounds. He's an all-around player. I'm not saying he's a superstar, but he is a very good player. A definitely top 10 pick, possibly top 5 pick. We'll see how he does at the combine, but I'm very impressed by Jarrett Culver and what this Texas Tech team has been able to accomplish being in the Final Four now, folks. They are representing the Big 12 and show that they might have just been the best team coming out of the Big 12. In the Elite Eight, Virginia obviously was the champion, and Virginia has been doing very, very, very well in this tournament so far. In that Elite Eight game to get to themselves to the Final Four, Kyle Guy is continuing to prove to me why I believe that this guy will be a legit NBA player. Watching his shot, it is clean, his stroke is nice. He's a tall, long player that I believe can truly his game can translate, just like Joe Ingles or someone like that. Along with that, he had 25 points and 10 rebounds. He was 8 for 19 shooting, 5 for 12 from 3. He's a catch and shoot good player. The best potential I see him being is someone like Klay Thompson. Don't necessarily see that happening, but someone like Joe Ingles, he could very well be, and I'm very impressed with this Virginia team. A very great defensive team. The buzzer beater that got them into the overtime game by Diakite was a very solid shot. I mean, it looked out of control, but the play was once again showing why. It's a big question. Do you foul a player when you're down by 3? Because something just like this can occur, and you end up losing the game because you go to overtime. I'm not sure exactly what I do. I think it depends on the team I'm playing. But in this case, it did not work out. Ty Jerome also had an amazing game for Virginia, putting up 24 points, 7 for 18 shooting, 4 for 10 from 3, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds. Continue to watch this Virginia team as they are remaking and recreating the image from last year, losing to the 16 seed UMBC. As they said, they've gathered themselves, and they're trying to go hard and getting the tension on a different scale, being, of course, on a good side. Now, this is something special. Purdue went down, lost to Virginia in that overtime game. But there's someone I want to talk about that has impressed me. Didn't know much about him, heard a little bit about him, but this kid is special. And I don't know if he's going to be specifically an amazing NBA player, but he will be a star and his whatever role he is for the rest of his life. It's on the court or off the court. He's a special kid. Carson Edwards is what I'm talking about. Heading into the Elite Eight game in the Sweet 16, this is what he did. He was 4 consecutive tournament games with 25 plus points, first place in Steph Curry to do so, and Curry is one of the greatest players we ever will remember in terms of both, yes, in the NBA, but also in the NCAA. And you want to know how he answered that in the press conference? That's pretty dope. Then he comes to the Elite Eight game, carrying his Purdue team, and he is the real deal, like I said. 42 points, 14 for 25 shooting, 10 made three-pointers. He also had 2 rebounds. He is a star. The shots he were hitting were incredible. He put that Purdue team on his back and carried them. Now let me tell you some other crazy stuff about him. Throughout this tournament, he put up 139 points through 4 games. That is the most a player has had since the year 2000 tournament. Also, he's the first player to have multiple 40-point games since 1975. Pretty crazy. 28 made three-pointers in this tournament. That's only through 4 games. Or 5, yeah, 4 games. Guess what? That is the most all-time. He didn't even play in the Final Four, didn't need to play in the championship game. That's what I want to say. He also is the first player since Steph Curry to win the best player from their side of the bracket without even winning it. This is what Carson Edwards did, and as they say, you watch every last moment he played in this tournament through the first 4 or 5 games. He never once was cocky, never once celebrated, nothing. He kept his head locked in, the Mamba mentality, and showed the world why he's a great player and he will be successful in whatever craft he pursues. He is special, and I give full props to Carson Edwards. He is a true star. Now I saved this game for last. Obviously, I think all America was watching this game. If you're listening to my podcast, that means you like basketball. Most likely, you were watching this game. Michigan State versus Duke. Duke, one of the most prestigious, hyped up teams ever in college basketball. I believe almost everyone probably had them winning the championship, or at least in the Final Four. I did have them winning the championship. Let me say this. In my opinion, I think Duke comes out to show why talent wins games. As they did in the Sweet 16, the round of 32, so on, we were tight games, and they still came out. This last game, let me go down the stat line real quick. R.J. Barrett put up 21 points, 7 for 17 shooting, 3 for 6 from 3, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. DeLaurier put up his best game I believe I've seen in a very long time, if not ever, with 10 points, 5 for 5 shooting, and 11 rebounds. Trey Jones has a crazy stat. He didn't have a turnover in 84 minutes of play until he had a turnover in the final 2 minutes. Reddish struggled. Only 8 points on 2 for 8 shooting, 2 for 6 from 3, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. I think his stock is sliding. We'll see how he does in the combine. I think it will be a good player, but he's not as great. He is once again that player that's a good player, but slipped out a little bit because of the fact he's playing with 2 legit superstars, just like last year with Wendell and Marvin. That being said, one man I'm left talking about is Zion Williamson. He had 24 points, 10 for 19 shooting, 2 for 6 from 3, 14 rebounds, 2 assists. Zion is special, and we all know that. Coach K is maybe the greatest coach ever, if not the greatest. I want to say something about that. I disagree with his play call. In the end of the game, no one else should have touched that ball except for Zion Williamson. Zion could not be stopped. Zion had a better field goal percentage. Zion is a man among boys out there. Why did he not have the ball? RJ, yes, he got fouled. He missed the free throw, and then he tried missing the second one. All 2, as we know, made it. 1-point game. Cassius Winston dribbled the ball out. Zion's the real deal. Why did he not have the ball? I don't know. But you want to know the other spectrum of this that I disagree with? Logan proposed this idea. Logan Lober, the guest from the Phoenix Suns episode, talked to me and wanted me to say what I believe about Skip Bayless saying that Zion Williamson is a top 20 player in the NBA right now, folks. Not a couple of years, right now. I 110% disagree. My rule when I do my rankings for the top 100, I actually do top 120, is I do not rank rookies, even though I know they're going to be better or are better than them. I knew Marvin, I knew DeAndre, some of these guys, Luka could be, Trae Young could be better than these players, but I did not do it just for the fact I need to at least have half a season of data to see. Zion hasn't even played in the summer league, folks. He hasn't done the combine. I haven't seen him as a real NBA player. Yes, his body, I don't know. Gilbert Arenas made a statement that a lot of people are slamming him for, saying he doesn't believe he has the skill to produce at the NBA level. I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case, but he doesn't have to use skill. We haven't really seen much because he's more athletic and bigger than every player in college basketball. So I'm not saying I want to rank a player in the top 100. I'm not even considering top 20. Those are all-stars. He's not an NBA all-star right now. It's going to take adjusting time. It's going to take a lot of things to see. I disagree with Skip Bayless that is pushing it. Slow down the hype train. I'm all for Zion hype. I'm all for RJ hype. I'm all for John Morant. Slow the hype down on him that far. He is not one of the best in the game right now. He might be. He probably will be. But not right now. That is ridiculous. He's a teenage boy. No. That is unacceptable, Skip. Clearly, I saved the team that beat Duke last. Because they just pulled off one of the greatest upsets. Maybe. I'm not saying it's the greatest upset ever, but maybe right now taking down Duke is a task that no one believes could happen, including myself. Therefore, Michigan State deserves all the props in the world. And here's what I want to break down. There's two men that led them, specifically Cassius Winston, but let me go into Xavier Tillman real quick. He contributed 19 points, 8 for 12 shooting, 1 for 3, 1 for 1 for shooting from 3, 9 rebounds and assists. He definitely showed up, but Cassius Winston is a very good player. He's been playing great all year. Probably will be a good NBA player. Kamar Price, you and me saw that on Twitter. Magic might be going after him for the Lakers. I don't know, but let me say this much. He's a good player. He's a great college player. Michigan State might just be my favorite to win it right now. I think Auburn probably will win. I think that Texas Tech has a chance, but not really. I mean, I think overall Auburn will win from now. But as for Michigan State, Cassius Winston put up 20 points, 9 for 23 shooting, 2 for 4 from 3, 10 assists and a rebound. He's a very great floor general. Tom Izzo also showed why he's a great coach. No, I don't think he's Coach K level. He won't be. But he's a very great coach that is a Hall of Fame deserving coach. Already is, I believe. And he showed why he's great. Once again, get in the Final Four. Coach K will have to see if you can get to the Final Four next year to break their record that you have with John Wooden. But, folks, that's what I have to say about the Final Four. Get ready. Number 5 Auburn will play number 1 Virginia at 3:09 Mountain Standard Time on April 6th. Michigan State will be playing Texas Tech, number 2 versus number 3, 5:49 Mountain Standard Time, April 6th. Stay tuned. Get ready. It's about to be a fun week, folks. Get ready. You already know what time it is. The grand finale, SchuZ Zone. I'm getting locked in. Are you guys? First thing is SchuZ Zone is that Chris Bosh and Manu Ginobili both got the jerseys retired this past week. It was truly great. Chris Bosh, well deserved. It was an amazing ending. The big scream. Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, definitely looks different and somehow looks younger. But that was an amazing time. The stories that those players and Coach Pop provided about Manu was truly special and fun. Definitely go check it out if you haven't already. Next thing, we have reports that Nick Nurse and the Toronto Raptors front office believe that Kawhi Leonard might be staying. My thoughts on that? I don't know. Kawhi's done many things that we just don't understand or know, to be honest. But in my opinion, I don't think he should leave. Of course, yeah, I'd love him to go to Brooklyn. Of course, I'd love him to go to all these different teams. But why leave? You're on a contending team. You're one or so pieces away from definitely being a contender, or Golden State losing a couple pieces. I wouldn't be going nowhere. Sign that deal, stay in Canada, lock it in, Kawhi. That's what I would do. Besides that, I don't know. Maybe LA Clippers, maybe Brooklyn. I don't know, but stay in Toronto, Kawhi. That's where we all want to see you. Next up, Devin Booker. He's now the third youngest player to score at least 30 points against 29 different teams. If you all thought that is all, he scored 59 and 50 points this past week. He's the youngest to ever do back-to-back 50-point games. He's put on a show, and Booker needs some help. Once again, people might blast me from a couple weeks ago when I said that D'Angelo's still better than Booker. Yes, I value winning more. Just as Coach Book and I discussed, winning is the most important thing than just the stats and the highlights. And I don't know if D-Book has that in him yet, but if he starts winning games soon, which I believe they add John Morant, they add young pieces like that, watch out. Watch out, folks. Next up, NBA announced that NBA will now be going to Paris, joining the games that they have in England, London already, and the one that they're adding in China with the Nets and Lakers. We now will have the Bucks versus the Hornets next season on January 24th, 2020. Stay tuned. I mean, it's the NBA. We are expanding. They are expanding. Adam Silver's done an amazing job, which is why the NFL has tried prying him away from the NBA. They will keep growing. They also have the Mexico games. Don't only forget about that one. The NBA is expanding, growing globally. It is soon to be the #1 sport in all the world. I can promise you that. Next up, Rajon Rondo and McGee both said they'd be interested in staying in LA. And of course, you guys might be wondering, this is the 4th episode you've had, Shu. And it's the 4th time you're trying to discuss the LA Lakers. Yes, because the Lakers don't get out of the media. Everything somehow slips out of that media in that locker room. I don't know how, but it's great for talking about. So that being said, Rajon Rondo and McGee said they're interested in staying. Rondo specifically said he wants to stay. McGee said, I want to stay. I'd be interested in staying, but you never know how free agency goes. That being said, we'll see. McGee's played spectacular. I think Rondo will be on the move, though. Just does not work out well. Also, coaching is starting to heat up now, and they're interested in adding Jason Kidd. Or at least Kidd said he'd love to be there. He'd love to coach LeBron. I don't think it's the best hire. I love Jason Kidd, all-time great net, all-time great point guard. He didn't do that well with Brooklyn. He didn't do very well at all in Milwaukee. You saw what Coach Bud can do. Go get yourself someone. Try getting Doc Rivers. Try getting Coach Spo. Try getting someone else. I'm not a fan of that move whatsoever. I think Kidd could be a head coach someday again, but I'd be more interested in doing the college and him becoming a historic, great college coach. Joining the likes of Penny Hardaway. Joining the likes of many other college coaches that have decided to go down. Kenny Anderson, many other ones. Do that path. Do that route. Also, Fred Hoiberg has now signed with Nebraska to become their new head coach. Next up, also, LeBron James is out for season now, folks. Yes, indeed, LeBron James is out for season, ending what a season that we can all say should be very much forgettable in the eyes of LeBron James. Is there really that much more to say about it? I mean, LeBron is out. I think maybe he would prefer to stay there, prefer to continue to play, try seeing what happens, get his numbers more and more up. But it is what it is. Last part about this. Nick Wright brought this up on his show on Fox Sports. I just want to talk about it. The MVP race, let me bring it back up. I said Giannis is winning MVP a couple weeks ago, but I do remember me saying that if Harden continues to win games, that might be some more consideration. I agree with Nick Wright. This might just be the closest MVP race I've seen in my life. There might be others before this, but let me tell you this stat. All credit goes to Nick Wright and what he said. But listen. Giannis does look, in fact, like a young Shaq, as you know, me and Kamara did say that. But let me say something. He's adding 6 assists per game, along with what Shaq did. He's adding 27 points, 13 rebounds. And out of this stat, listen, these players are the only players that's ever averaged 25-plus points per game, 10-plus rebounds, and 5-plus assists. Notice that Giannis is more than all those three stat numbers. But still, Kareem, Wilt, Oscar, Bird, Elgin Baylor, Charles Barkley, Russell Westbrook, and now Giannis Antetokounmpo. That is elite company. He's also leading the best team record-wise in the NBA, and he has the top defensive rating in the NBA. Spectacular. On the other side is James Harden. James Harden is averaging 36.5 points per game, folks. Y'all want to know something crazy? Only players ever to average more points per game than what Harden is doing this season is Michael Jordan, debatably the GOAT in mine, I think he is, Elgin Baylor, and Wilt Chamberlain. 3 players. Y'all remember that first time he bursted out, no Chris Paul, no Clint Capella, 50 points on the LA Lakers? Y'all remember that show? Well, guess what? That was 47 games ago, more than half a season ago. Since that LA game, Harden has averaged 47 points per game and 7 assists. 47 and 7. Also, the Rockets have the second best record in that time span. But 47 and 7, that is something that we keep saying. No one will ever reach Wilt Chamberlain. No one will do that, and probably not. But this is the closest we're going to see it. 47 and 7. I think both of them have a very high chance of becoming MVP. Both of them I cannot disagree with or agree with. This is going to be close, and these games do matter. These games do matter, folks. Stay tuned. This is a very great NBA battle. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining me today on the 4th episode of SchuZ Views. To stay up to date on all my future episodes and past episodes, please like, favorite, subscribe, or follow this episode and the podcast. You may also go and comment on this episode for me to possibly answer on my next episode. You can also go and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or like my page on Facebook at Zach Schumaker, or subscribe to my page on YouTube to stay up to date and get involved in my shows. Once again, I hope you guys all enjoyed today's show. I can't wait, and I hope to see you guys again next week to see the NBA through my lens. I'm your host, Zach Schumaker, and I'm out. God bless.